Hello and welcome back, Team Bedrock. This is your host, TNC Cuban, and today we are in my Redstone tutorial world. Check it out. Yeah, there's a few cool things that I've kind of theorized and worked on, and I don't know, this world is kind of old. I got some really cool and interesting stuff over there, but we're going to get into something just a little bit different, because if you guys didn't notice on the Minecraft 1.10 update, we got some really cool features. If you're not sure what feature it is that specifically I am talking about, it's those cool dispensers that shear automatically. Yeah, that is just quite amazing, and there's some really cool builds that I have been able to kind of come up with. I've seen a couple of those videos out there while I was working on this one, but this one did kind of take me a little bit of time. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it, and let me show you kind of what I've been working on. And just to kind of show you, yeah, I've spent a lot of time with these sheep, with some different machines and some different concepts on an idea and a theory at what I had for these sheep. So let me go ahead and kind of show you what I was working on. Kind of want to show you the progress that I kind of go through and kind of the thoughts that go through my head when I start working on something like this. Now, my initial idea concept was, to kind of push the sheep around, so that way they can get sheared, go through this like machine over here that dispenses, kind of shears them. They come around, get pushed around by the water, and then they kind of end up right here. But as you guys can see right here, they just want to fight against the water. Who knows why, but they do. And this system, although it works, and I mean, if you guys wanted to go with something like this, it is very simple, very resource friendly. I know I got multiple dispensers right here, but you really don't need that many dispensers. And I'm actually kind of curious, because this has been sitting here quite a few hours. Yeah, it's not really friendly on getting a lot of items. So yeah, we won't use this system because, well, it's not quite that great. However, like I said, if you're working early game, this might actually be something you would want to use. Anyhow, let me go ahead and show you another idea and a concept that I was actually working on and working with. Yes, I will say my flying machine kind of broke because I unloaded the chunk, logged out, and it just kind of got stuck over here. And yeah, it's just broken. So this was an idea of having a flying machine with, I was actually going to do more, but I put a few dispensers underneath just to kind of get the idea and the concept. And what it does is it flies across and shears the sheep and bounces back and forth. One of the reasons why I didn't want to go with this machine is, like I said, this thing broke when I logged out. So if you unload a chunk while this machine is going, you forget to turn it off, well, you're going to be fixing a broken machine, and it's going to require lots of maintenance. And the way I did it to kind of collect the wool was to actually put it on a hopper minecart, which is right here, and it kind of collects the wool with, kind of just a system that collects the wool right over here. And let's see what this one has. Not very much, kind of because it hasn't been running. However, it does kind of get a lot of wool done. But I didn't like the idea of the flying machine, and I kind of came over here and kind of maybe tried another concept, which, kind of circulated the grass. But like I said, I really didn't like the flying machine concept. So I said, you know what, scratch that. We're going to go back to this concept of pushing the sheep around. And I actually came up with a pretty good system, I think, that kind of just basically when the sheep, and this string is not needed, but basically when the sheep come right over here, activate that string, they get pushed across into this water stream and then come this way. But once again, an issue that I had was the sheep want to fight against the water. Yeah, and then they end up getting stuck over here. Kind of not ideal. So I decided, let me revamp this system. Maybe if I drop it one level, it will work. And it worked pretty good. I actually think that this system worked pretty good, kind of going with this setup and kind of getting them to where they kind of flow through, get pushed across. But with this setup, I ended up kind of putting a lot of hoppers over here, and I was like, that's not really resource friendly because that requires a lot of iron. However, you could still do that. These are one of those systems that you could actually do, and it's not really resource heavy, something you can get fairly early game on. But me, You know, if you guys know anything about me, I like to make things kind of complicated, but I like to make it simple in the same form, as in it's not super resource heavy. However, because I am complicated and I like to make things complicated, it can kind of maybe require some resources that you're not going to maybe necessarily get right away in your game of Minecraft. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it is that I actually kind of finalize and basically I'm kind of happy with now. If we come right over here, we can kind of see it's basically all the same setup as, you know, that one over there and that one over there. But what I found out and what I realized, if we actually drop them 2 blocks down, they don't really fight against the water. You don't have to really worry. I know there's a little bit of entity cramming, but this is actually something that's going to be a little bit more friendly on the realm side. And it's easily turned from any sheep farm that you have into this more advanced machine for the wool. As you guys can see, they're kind of floating around and going through the system, and although there are 6 hoppers, it's kind of because the wool kind of when they get sheared kind of goes all over the place. And yes, I know sheep that are already sheared are already going through the system. So before I jump too far into how this is actually built, let's actually take a look. Now this has been running probably for about a couple hours, and I basically emptied the chest. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and empty the chest now that this thing has actually been running for a little while, because I want to get a true accuracy on how much wool we actually get. As you guys can see, we're actually getting a fair good amount of wool. Yes, I know there's some black and there's some white in there, but let's go ahead, now that I've emptied this, let me kind of make sure I want to get a full thing. All right, let's take this out of there. I'm going to set my timer now, and we're going to go for 1 hour. I want to see exactly how much wool we can actually get within the first hour from this system after it's already been running for the first hour. Because, you know, the first hour, you got fresh grass, the sheep are going to eat it, and then they're going to not maybe shear as much. So I kind of want to see where we're going to get and how much wool we're going to get after an hour. So I'm going to sit right here, AFK. And I'm going to run a time lapse just so we can see what we get. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. All right, and you guys heard it, my little timer that I have right here. I had been sitting here for about an hour. If you guys may have noticed in the beginning of that time lapse, my grass blocks right here were not firing, and that was because, well, I was missing a block. So I had to place the block in so that way it can fire, so that way we can actually get an accurate count of what we have. So let's take a look and see what's inside of our chests. And wow, look at that. That is a lot of wool. We won't count those ones that are coming in right now. We will count these right here, and let's see what we've got. And after adding up these 9 stacks, 10, 11 stacks, plus the 245 of the white wool and the black wool, we've come to a total of 795. Now, possibly if, you know, this machine would have kind of been working maybe in the first, 5 minutes, probably would have been around about 800. So check it out, guys. We're getting about 800 wool per hour. Man, talk about a lot of wool. You can just, in an hour, man, that's a lot. Whatever your wool needs are to be, you can definitely get some good resource for that. So next thing I'm gonna do real quick, just kind of for this tutorial, I want to see how many sheep I got in here, because I mean there really isn't that many, and they are not entity cramming, at least not to a massive point. Now they might when they come through here, but like I said, this is meant to be something that is very friendly on a realm, so that way it doesn't cause any entity cramming lag. So let me go ahead and grab myself a diamond sword, and we're gonna see how many of these guys I end up taking out. 35, 36, 37 sheep. Yeah, so we had 37 sheep, probably could have rounded out at about 40 and maybe added a little bit of entity cramming, but yeah, that's really good. So let's go ahead. I'm going to actually grab all the materials that I need. We're going to go into a void world and we're going to build this up, kind of show you guys what I did. Alright, so here we are. We've got our template right over there, basically in the sky, and we are in a world with nothing in it. So let's go ahead and show you what the first thing that we need to do for this tutorial. First thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make a hole. Now, if you notice, I have my chunk visualizer on, and you guys can see that the way I built this and the way I set this up was so that it was in one chunk. So this way you don't have any chances of mobs despawning when they go across chunks. And this way you don't have any redstone issues going through and across chunks also when they get loaded and unloaded. So what I have here is a 5 by 9 hole. So we got it 9 wide, 5 long. Now that we've got our holding area for our sheep kind of dug out, we're going to need to grab some resources. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to need for the sheep shearing system. We are going to need 2 pistons, 6 hoppers, 2 slime blocks, 2 sticky pistons, 2 dispensers, 1 observer, 1 string, 10 pieces of redstone, 5 obsidian, or 5 terracotta. Depending on where you're at in your survival game, you can use either or. 2 chests to collect the items in, a water bucket, some glass, I would say probably about a stack just to be on the safe side, and you can use grass or dirt blocks, doesn't matter as long as you're in a world that already has some grass around it where your hole is, and then also a few slabs. I would say just a handful, probably about 6 should do it. Then we also have a bunch of shears that you're going to need to put inside of the dispensers, so that way they don't completely disappear and you can kind of keep on going with your sheep shearing system. And I'm going to start with the glass, because the glass is going to be really helpful when we're actually trying to make sure that the grass will actually regrow, because those sheep, they eat a lot of grass. So we got the glass placed in around, so that way we have a too high area, so this way we can actually keep the sheep penned in. And there's a reason why I went with too high, but we'll get into that a little bit more. And as you can see, as the grass grows from this block down to this block, or actually this one, it will actually make it in from dirt into grass. And that's basically why we want to kind of put glass on top of the grass. The next thing that we're going to grab is actually a couple of these slabs, because the next part is going to be kind of how we're going to be getting the sheep to go and push each other into the system. And that's kind of because they got to go up 2 levels. So let's go ahead and place a block here. It could be grass or it could be dirt. It's going to get covered. We're going to place a slab here, 2 more pieces of dirt. Then we're going to put slabs down right there, and right there. So basically we only need 4 slabs. Now that we've got a small stairway for the sheep to kind of go up, we want to kind of make an area where the sheep are actually going to go. And with that, I'm probably going to want to make this actually a little bit higher, so this way we can make sure the sheep don't actually get out. So we're going to place some more glass and kind of place it a little bit more here, because this is going to be the area that the sheep actually flow into our dispensing area. And actually I don't think we need those right there. So the next things that we're going to grab, and one of them I've kind of missed to put in the description or inside of my chest, sorry, it will be in the description, I just forgot to put it in the chest, is we're going to put a sign right here, so that way our sheep can go up here into this flowing water that's going to push them across into our dispensing area. Next, we're going to go ahead and grab our terracotta or obsidian, and from 2 blocks in where the water's flowing, we're going to place our obsidian there, our terracotta there, because right here is going to be where our slime blocks go, and we want to make sure that they're not going to be affected by the blocks around it. And with that being said, we also need to place some terracotta or some obsidian right here, and also in these 2 spots right here. Now that we've got our immovable blocks set up, let's go ahead and place our sticky piston right there, and our second one right there, then also our 2 slime blocks. And we're gonna have to probably remove that glass also. If you want to cover that up, we could always put some other terracotta or some other obsidian blocks that you may have extra in your inventory that you could just kind of maybe plop right there. But from all the testing that I've done, it's not really needed, because basically these slime blocks, when these sheep do come in, it's gonna toss them across over here, which is quite amusing if you ask me. Now from where our glazed terracotta or our immovable object is, we're gonna go 1, 2, and then right here is the 3rd spot. That's where we're gonna go ahead and throw our dispenser, which is full of shears. And on the other side, we're gonna do the same thing. So let's go ahead and grab some more of these fancy grass blocks, and we're gonna place this up, and right across from that, we're gonna place the other dispenser. Now that we've got our dispensers placed in, we're gonna go ahead and actually put in our item collection system, which we can actually put a chest right here, and then we can have a double chest to actually collect the items. And you can do it simply by just taking our 6 hoppers and feeding them all directly into that chest. Now, the reason why I went with 6 hoppers is because all the testing that I've done, when the sheep come across here and they get hit by the slime block, right here is where they get sheared, but it seems like the wool kind of bounces not exactly where they get sheared. And this should cover all of the area where they actually drop the wool, because I've seen it actually come even as far as out to this block, but it is so uncommon. And as you guys can see, we're getting 800 wool from this system, so it shouldn't even be that big of a deal. Yes, I will say it's not 100% efficient, however, it is pretty good. And what I'll do is I'll place a piece of glass right on top of that, so that way we can still open and close the chest. And since we're placing glass, let's go ahead and actually cover some of these areas actually up, because we want to basically keep an eye on our sheep, because if you guys have been following Truly Bedrock, we don't want anybody to steal our sheep either. Now let's go ahead and grab a couple of placer blocks, and yes, I know, another thing that I didn't have in my chest of items that we need, but we still need these placer blocks. We're going to put these right on top of the dispenser, and then we're actually going to power that system using these blocks to power the dispensers. Now it is time to use the single observer that we have, which is really resource friendly. We're going to place our observer just like that, or actually we're going to place it the other way because it needs to be facing down. And what we're going to use to trigger that observer is actually a piece of string, which I left inside of the chest. So let's go ahead and grab that real quick. Grab our string. We're going to take our string and we're actually going to place it right in front of that face of that dispenser. And if you notice, it does activate the observer. So let's go ahead and grab our redstone. Let's wire that part up. We're going to throw some redstone dust there, up here, across, right there, to the other dispenser, and then we also want to put a piece of redstone dust on the back of the observer. And so that we're not using too many redstone or too much redstone, we're going to place a block here, and then we're also going to power those 2 pistons at the same time simultaneously, so that way when the sheep do get pushed, at the exact time that they get pushed, the dispenser will catch them and actually shear them. There's an example. Let's see that again. Perfect. As an additional safety precaution, you can use regular blocks or you can use glass, but you can go ahead and cover up where these hoppers are, because like I've said, sometimes the wool, when it bounces around and it will bounce up, and I've had it bounce on top of these blocks over here. But as long as you got it covered, you should be safe. And that's pretty much it for this simple setup for our sheep farm. Now, one of the things that I've kind of added in my system, as you guys seen over there, is kind of a way to make sure that we get enough grass to feed our sheep. And if you guys can see right here, I've added a piston feed tape. However, it doesn't just keep going. I actually have it synced and linked up with a etho hopper clock, so this way it only goes off every 30 seconds because it just doesn't need to keep going, because if it just keeps going, you might end up just circulating just dirt. We want to circulate grass into the system over here, so that way our sheep actually has fresh grass to eat on a more consistent basis. This part is not necessarily needed. However, I would recommend it if you have the extra resources to do so, because it's quite simple. And we'll go ahead and hop right into that now. So for the additional setup, similar to what I have, you'll need 6 pistons, 1 block of redstone, 2 hoppers, 1 redstone, 2 redstone torches, 1 repeater, and 2 comparators. So what I'm going to be adding to the system is basically when a sheep comes through here and triggers that string, it's also going to trigger our timer to actually push the grass through every 30 seconds. So off of this system, we're going to come off 1 block, and then we're going to place our redstone torch with a piece of redstone right on top. So that way that redstone torch will actually get turned off and actually deactivate or activate our 30-second timer. Right across from that torch, we're going to place a block, and we're going to put our redstone dust. We could put it underneath. However, kind of getting the timer and a clock system set up, it was kind of easier to set it up this way. We're also going to take our comparator, we're going to face it into that block. Then we're also going to need our hoppers facing into each other. If you guys know how the etho hopper clock works, that's basically items coming back and forth between each other. Now we're going to go ahead and place the piston right here, and let's go ahead and place our redstone block on top of that. Another comparator over here, block for that comparator to read into, dust, and then also our other piston that's going to push it back and forth. Now for the timer to work for 30 seconds, we're going to need to place any old 32 items inside of the hopper. And as you guys can see, I placed 32 coarse dirt. It was just a random block that I grabbed, but it could be anything. I just grabbed 32 items, put it inside of the hopper, and that's going to basically set this machine in kind of a single state so it doesn't go back and forth from that redstone torch. Basically, once that redstone torch turns off after it gets activated from a sheep going through, it will turn off this redstone, which will move the redstone block this way and actually kind of keep this side of the piston extended for 30 seconds. So from here, we're going to place a block right here. We're going to dig down a little bit just so that way we can make sure we get our timer set. I'm going to put another block right there, and this should be where we're going to be putting our repeating clock. We'll place a torch right here on this side of the block, and then we'll also take our redstone and put it right here and right here. We'll place our repeater right here, and then also a piece of redstone dust in front of it. We'll also want to place some redstone dust right here and right here, and as you guys can see, it is a clock that will keep going, but will stop once that redstone block goes to the back. And here is how I'll show you an example. By just removing this torch, you will see that the stone moves back, and then when I place the torch back, even though that is fully powered, it will stay right there until the items move from one hopper to the other. Next, I'm going to go ahead and dig down a few more blocks so that way I can actually get down here myself and actually have a piston feed tape that's going to move this grass block around. And for that to start, we're going to go ahead and put a piston right there. And just so you guys can see where I placed that piston at, let me kind of break those. You can see that it sits right up here, one block below where the redstone dust would be. And so that way we can activate this piston. When we start doing our piston feed tape, we just place our dust right there. And you guys can see it will just kind of pump back and forth. But let's go ahead and get the rest of the pistons set up. Now, right on the other side of our wall, adjacent from our piston, we're gonna go ahead and break this down all the way to the same level, so that way we can actually get that grass to renew and refresh itself. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and place a piston right there, and we will go ahead break this, although I know it's bedrock. Hopefully you guys will be in a world that is not full of bedrock. We're gonna place a torch right here, then we're gonna break these and throw some redstone dust right on top. So basically what will happen is when it comes time for a new block to come in right here, it will automatically get pushed. And the reason why I went with this system is because redstone torches are really cheap rather than using observers. And like I said again, something I wanted to create that you can do early game. Now that we've got this piston set up, let's go ahead and come out here to the outside and set up another piston, which is basically going to be the same setup. Let's actually break it down right here. That's where our bedrock is. Let's place our piston right there. We're going to break this piece of bedrock, throw another torch, break these, and then place our dust on top of those as well. And again, when we place a block right here, that piston will move as this block comes in and goes right there, and we should get our new fresh grass growing through the system. Now, as you guys can see, I placed that and nothing happened. That's because it's at push limit. So let's go ahead and set up the rest of the pistons. Now, right over here on this corner of the farm, this is actually our last piston that we need to set up. So let's break this down all the way to this bedrock level, break that block, place another piston, and we'll do again the same thing with the redstone burnout clock, because when that comes in again for the third time, you will see it will push that block over. And now that I'm looking at it, that piston is actually placed in the wrong spot, but that is very fine. We can actually put that right there, which again we can activate by throwing the dust on top, and you guys can see how it moves back and forth, back and forth. Now, what I would suggest doing, so that way these blocks that will be moving around are not covered and actually become grass, I would say to break all of these down and all of these out, so that way these will actually refresh and turn into grass blocks. That's kind of the point of this piston tape, because it will actually help the sheep get fresh grass faster. The other thing that I would suggest is actually breaking these probably one block around like this, so that way it has the stair effect. Although these will turn into grass blocks from either the glass side or even from this side, it just would make it probably move and actually grow a little bit faster. So yeah, this just kind of helps out the whole system, I do believe, with the piston feed tape a bit better. Now, to make sure our piston feed tape doesn't get stuck, let me go ahead and make sure that all of these have an empty slot, and then we will actually start placing these in until it actually gets all the way around. And as you guys can see, that thing will just keep on going, but we don't want it to consistently go. We want to make sure that we got some sheep in here, so that way the sheep can come in here, they can start eating grass, and we can get things going. Now, as an added feature, if you don't want this machine going constantly, you can always shut it off by simply grabbing a lever and placing it right over here by one of these things, so that way it turns off this piston, because we want to make sure that this piston right here is always preloaded, because otherwise what's going to happen is it could break the piston feed tape for the more simplified version. You could make it more advanced and use observers or use some other method other than the torches. However, like I said, the reason why I went with this was so that way it was a bit more resource friendly. Now that we've got all that set up, all we need to do is get our sheep in here and start placing them down. Now, as you guys seen from the beginning, I had about 20 something sheep, almost 30. I think it was about 27, but 30 seems like a pretty good number. So let's get our 30 sheep in here, so that way we can actually start collecting some of our wool. And you can see we can have different colored sheep, and well, it just doesn't quite matter. Now, I would suggest utilizing more than just maybe a few sheep, because what we're going to be doing is, since there's going to be so many sheep in here, they're actually going to be pushing each other through the system, and they're actually going to be pushing each other through the system fairly quickly. Plus, who wants to only have 10 sheep getting sheared at a time? That's just not enough wool at one time. So yeah, let's just place in a bunch of these guys. I'm not counting them, I'm just gonna place them in there until I start seeing them entity cram, which looks like I might have some more space. Let's throw a few more in here. And like I said, if you don't want to kind of cause realm issues or realm lag, try to keep these guys at a minimum, so this way you guys don't crash the server or create lag for other people on the realm that you're playing with. So there you guys have it. Fairly simple system, really easy to build, can do it early game, and that will get you 800 wool per hour. Now that I think about it, what do you need 800 wool per hour for? Either way, I really like this system. It works really well and it's fairly simple. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. What I'm using for the texture pack, for the glass, and for the redstone, it was actually made and created by Jade. She does have a YouTube channel. Link is going to be up in the right hand corner on a card. Check it out. It's also going to be down in the description. She has a great channel. She does some pretty amazing redstone builds, which is why she created the texture pack. So let me go ahead and grab a few things and show you what it looks like. So the first thing that I do want to note is, if you pay attention to the cursor that I have in the middle of my screen, it is actually perfectly center of the screen, because when you have the crosshair center cursor, it is actually not centered of the game. It's actually off to the left by 1 pixel. So she created this 1 pixel kind of in the center, which is actually 4 pixels, and it works pretty great for when you kind of want to make sure you're clicking exactly on that block that you want. She also retextured the glass so that way it's a lot clearer, so that you can see through the glass. She even created the observers so that way it has arrows on the side, and one of the things that I do like about it is that when you place something in front of it, the eyes light up, the top lights up, so that way when you're not directly looking at the backside, you can see when the observer is being activated. And like I said, this thing is actually pretty cool. You can also see she used clean redstone, which you can see the 2 different kinds of lines here. And the other thing that she did with the pistons, she put the green slime on the side of the pistons, so that way you can actually tell the difference between a sticky piston and also a regular piston. So like I said, if you guys want to check it out, you can check it out on my Discord. You can also shoot her a message, and also, like I said, check out her channel, because she does some pretty cool and amazing things with redstone.